All right, we are looking at the three most important things when you're putting together a message, whether it's a sermon, a speech, a devotional, or even a paper or an advertisement. Anything that's a communication message has to have these three things: pathos, logos, and ethos. These terms come from Aristotle. Now, this was written about 300 years before Christ. But Aristotle said that you have to have all three of these things to have a successful message. So we're going to take a few minutes and go over these. The reason why this is important is because if you're developing a message, you need to find ways to incorporate all three of these elements. So I'm going to define them, give a few examples, and summarize what was said. First of all, pathos. Pathos is the word for emotion. Actually came from the word suffering. So if you're going to bring your audience into your message, you're going to have description, things like sight, taste, touch, sound, smell, the very elements in poetry that you work to economize words and phrases are important to pathos. So you might not just say candy bar, you might say Snicker bar half eaten with chocolate little slightly melting in my hand. It's a lot more descriptive. It brings people in. So anything that includes sound, taste, touch, smell, and I'm missing one: sight, taste, touch, smell, and hearing. So that's important for pathos. Everybody also relates to suffering. So if you bring up a crisis or an injury or a story about something that brings people through a valley and then out of it, that is pathos. The other element that's important is logos. This is where we get the word logic. And logic is, logos has this idea of arrangement or order or reasoning. And for example, the pattern of organization that you might use in a message or a speech might be topical, or it might be problem solution, in which you discuss several, you define the problem and then you work towards the solution and an action. So how you arrange your material, transitions, and then your support that includes reasoning or statistics, things like that. All of these fit under the topic of logos. You've got to have that type of arrangement. So for example, even if you look at an advertisement in a magazine, it's going to have your eyes move based on the arrangement of the artwork or the pictures into a particular direction. So logos is very important to a message. And then finally, ethos. Ethos is where we get the word ethics, but it has a more rich meaning than that. I would like to define for you, ethos is your right to speak. Why should I listen to you give a message or communicate what you're communicating? Why should the audience listen to you? So your ethos is your sort of your credibility. It's your right to speak. And often a great place to put credibility is in the beginning to hook people in to why they should listen to you. But you can also sprinkle credibility throughout using quality sources, and if it's the top-notch quality source, go ahead and mention that source. Or if it's a particular person, you're talking about the presidency of the United States, you might quote one of the presidents and mention their name. That would be ethos. So if you don't have all three of these, there's going to be a weakness in your message. So you want to make sure that you practice this. This is something that any speech book, any communicator, any person teaching people how to speak or to prepare a sermon, all of these elements are going to need to be there to be successful.